It's been a character-building couple of months for Australia's beef industry. Among the criticisms levelled against it from both inside and outside the beef game was its failure of leadership over the Indonesian issue. A tricky time then to take over the top job at the red meat industry's peak lobby research and marketing organisation, Meat and Livestock Australia. Scott Hansen's the new man in the hot seat, and Kerry Lonergan caught up with him this week in Brisbane.
Scott Hansen, new job, lots of things to do. Give us your top two priorities.
Well, I guess number one priority for us at the moment is just rebuilding that market access into Indonesia as quickly as we can, working with Australian exporters and importers to get their supply chains accredited, to make sure that they've got everything they need to get the flow of cattle back out of our northern production systems back across into Indonesia. That's number one. I guess number two for me is really ensuring that MLA gets back to basics in terms of what it's doing, that we really focus on delivering excellence in our marketing and our R&D portfolios.
Well, obviously the live trade issue is still bubbling. Can I suggest that MLA in this particular issue at this time is out-muscled and out-thought on this issue, and indeed irreparable damage has been done to the trade?
Well, I mean, it's certainly suffered significant damage, our live export trade out of this event. There's a lot of pain in our northern production systems at the moment. I mean, the positive lining out of this, Kerry, going forward is the fact that, you know, the new systems that are being put in place, the systems whereby supply chains not only take responsibility for the handling of the animals throughout that supply chain, but importantly, poor performance in a supply chain does not bring about the end of a trade or the end of a marketplace, but that supply chain itself is held accountable for it. I mean, that puts our live export trade on a much more secure footing going forward. But the pain involved in getting to that has been enormous.
And it certainly gave your critics an opportunity for a free kick at MLA.
Look, there's been no doubt that brand MLA has been significantly damaged over this past period of time. I mean, we've seen media reports say that MLA is a Indonesian abattoir accreditation agency, an animal welfare agency. I mean, the misconfusion out there about what MLA is and what its powers are and how it's been investing producer levies to make incremental improvements in animal welfare, it really has created some damage to our brand.
But Scott Hansen, perception is reality, isn't it? And when you put ghastly pictures alongside a very well organised campaign against the live trade, the result is a minister who gets scared of the backlash and with no thought, it seems, to economic reality, gives into this campaign, so the perception of unbridled cruelty is then established as the reality. Is MLA tough enough and indeed smart enough to fight that sort of campaign?
MLA on its own can't and will never be successful in fighting such a campaign. I mean, what we've seen clearly out of these last events is the fact that MLA at best can assist the industry in its own defence of its practices, of its care for animals, of its care for the environment, and importantly, you know, the personal stories that are associated with this business. And I think that's really what one of the key learnings for us out of this is the fact that the people best able to tell the stories, the best ones to resonate with the community, are actually those producers and those people involved in the supply chain, aided and assisted by MLA, but not led by MLA in this type of environment.
Would you acknowledge that at present, in particular, there seems to be a very, very strong anti-farming campaign going on with city-based environmental and political groups, and they're against all forms of intensive farming, and that would include, of course, feedlots?
Yeah, I think there's two issues raising here. The first one here is the fact that survey work that we do with the broader community in Australia says that they still have high levels of trust in our Australian producers, our Australian production systems. So I don't see a real growing number of people who are opposing livestock production. What we are seeing is those who are opposed to it are becoming much smarter, much better funded and much more coordinated in their attacks. And because they're becoming much better coordinated, much better funded, they're making their voices appear a lot louder than what it might actually be amongst the Australian community.
Of course, a big part of MLA's mission statement would be to sell more red meat. Any special plans?
No, and one of the key things for us is continuing to reinforce the fact that we act as a service provider to those who actually sell more red meat. All we do is assist them in trying to capture demand that's out there in the marketplace. I guess the biggest challenge for us at the moment is, we really are seeing additional pain put on this industry from weakening in our traditional markets. Our big traditional markets of Japan and the United States are really suffering. Both, in Japan, they're still recovering from the natural disasters earlier this year. Every time they seem to make some steps forward in that recovery, there's either a food safety or a health scare that, again, weakens consumer confidence in products. And that's really creating a weak demand in our Japanese marketplace. In the United States, we've all seen the brinkmanship on economic turmoil in the United States that continues to undermine consumer confidence over there. Combine that with an Australian dollar over parity, and our two big traditional marketplaces for beef are having an incredibly tough time. The one silver lining in that, Kerry, is the fact that we've got new emerging marketplaces, the Chinas, the Middle East, who are really growing strong on the basis of an increasing prosperous population over there.
I want to ask you about the latest TV ad featuring Sam Neill. Let's pause a moment and let our viewers have a look at this ad featuring Sam Neill.
In breaking news, in our Tarman this afternoon, an intruder confronted a lady in her home while she was making her supper. After he tried taking her valuables, Ruby Hinds took matters into her own hands, smacking the man with a hot wooden spoon. He fled the scene thanks to Ruby's delicious beef stew. What a trooper. She's obviously charged and ready for anything. I'm told Ruby's getting her iron from red meat 3 to 4 times a week. Stay ready, Australia.
OK, there's the ad. Tell us about this ad. What do you think of it?
Well, look, I think the opportunity to utilise a well-known face like Sam Neill and to really come back to a message for Australian consumers, a message that's been trialled and tested with them, and that message about, not so much the individual nutritional components of red meat, which our surveys tell us they have a good understanding of now, but more about the benefits that nutritional composition provides. This energy, this vitality, not only physically but mentally, this ready-for-anything approach.
It's been flogged for years, but I'm just asking about that particular ad. Now, it should be acknowledged that MLA has made some cracker ads over the years, especially for lamb, but I have to say, we've test-run that ad, that latest ad featuring Sam Neill, and I've got to say the result is very, very negative.
Well, a new creative agency and a new approach to advertising. We'll be monitoring the outcomes from this ad.
This is a two-part of this ad. Here's the second part featuring Sam Neill.
Welcome back. In breaking news, I'm getting iron from this delicious steak. Make sure you get your red meat 3 to 4 times a week. Stay ready, Australia.
Well, there's the second part of the ad. Tell me, Scott Hansen, what does Sam Neill walking off a TV set in his underpants, what does that have to do with selling red meat?
It's as much about ensuring we capture the audience's attention. As you know, these days, audiences more and more are turning off to advertising on TV. What we need to do is make sure we continue to come up, and the creative agencies that we employ to come up with eye-catching ads that will make people stop and consider the message that's being delivered.
I think
now, all of our advertising campaigns are run through not only pre-screen sort of surveys and work with the target audiences that we're focusing on, but we're equally going to be vicious in our assessments of the success of these campaigns. If we aren't going down the right path, if we aren't getting the consumer response and reaction to the ads that we're looking for, we'll change strategies, we'll change direction.
Scott Hansen, you'll certainly need some iron in your red meat over the coming months. Tough job ahead. Thanks for your time today on Landline.
Thank you very much.